HOA complained about my pool design, so I turned it into a giant water park instead. What happens when the dream of a simple, serene escape in your own backyard is crushed by the iron fist of an overzealous neighborhood tyrant, pushing you to build something so audacious, so joyfully defiant? It transforms a personal battle into a community spectacle. My name is Ethan Hayes, and my backyard was destined to be my sanctuary. After years of demanding work as a pediatric physical therapist, I dreamed of a minimalist lap pool, sleek, modern, with advanced eco-friendly filtration designed not just for exercise but for quiet contemplation. It was going to be a clean, flowing line of cobalt blue, a stark yet harmonious contrast to the rolling green lawns of the Grandview Estates. The exclusive community whose meticulously maintained perfection was overseen by none other than its formidable HOA president, Victoria Sterling. Victoria was a woman whose very posture exuded unyielding control. Her perfectly sculpted blonde bob, sharp tailored suits, and a voice that could slice through the thickest silence made her presence an undeniable force. She ran the HOA like a personal fiefdom, micromanaging everything from exterior paint colors to the precise angle of garden gnomes. Her latest fixation? My proposed pool. She deemed its innovative, minimalist design too industrial, stark and uninviting, and most damningly, a radical deviation from the established classical aesthetic of the Grandview Estates, implying it would lower property values. Her demand was clear, delivered with a chilling condescension. "Mr. Hayes?" she'd purred, her lips barely moving during our initial architectural review. "We simply cannot tolerate such experimental structures. Your proposed design lacks the warmth and elegance that defines our community. It's an eyesore, frankly. We are an exclusive community, Mr. Hayes, and your vision does not align with ours. You will conform to our pre-approved, classical designs, or face the full extent of the HOA's punitive measures." Her dismissive wave of a manicured hand underscored her absolute authority, her eyes barely making contact, as if I were a particularly irritating stain on her pristine blueprint for suburban utopia. Her arrogance was breathtaking, her sense of entitlement boundless. I tried to reason with her, explaining the pool's cutting-edge eco-filtration system, its low water consumption, and how its modern lines were designed for both therapeutic use and minimal environmental impact. I even offered to soften the edges with carefully selected, classical landscaping elements, offering compromises that felt like a betrayal of my original vision but seemed necessary for peace. "Mrs. Sterling," I patiently explained, holding up detailed schematics, "this pool is built for purpose and sustainability. It's not just aesthetically pleasing, it's environmentally responsible. The filtration system alone would reduce our community's water usage significantly." She merely scoffed, pushing the schematics away as if they were contaminated. "Environmental responsibility, Mr. Hayes, is your private hobby. Our community's aesthetic uniformity is the HOA's unwavering priority. You will receive a notice to submit revised plans. Failure to comply will result in substantial fines and a forced halt to any unauthorized construction." Her icy resolve was chilling, a thinly veiled threat of unknown repercussions. The notices came, escalating from polite requests to thinly veiled legal threats of fines so exorbitant they would cripple me financially. I ignored them, hoping her obsession would wane or that reason would somehow prevail. I was catastrophically wrong. One sweltering afternoon, I returned from my shift to find my construction site, which had just begun preliminary excavation for the pool, in utter disarray. The carefully dug foundation was filled with construction debris, broken concrete slabs, and a noxious-smelling, dark liquid that had clearly been dumped there deliberately. The partially installed plumbing lines were severed, and my small, temporary construction office, a prefab shed, had its windows smashed. A crudely scrawled sign, "HOA Edict Unauthorized Construction," was nailed to the side of the shed. Victoria. There was no doubt. She had physically invaded my space and sabotaged my project. Rage, cold and precise, ignited within me. As I stood there, reeling from the sight of the senseless destruction, a faint red light blinked on my temporary site security camera, a small, discreet device I had installed to monitor materials, not trespassers. My heart hammered with a grim realization. It would have captured everything. Every single, damning second of her illegal entry and malicious act. This wasn't just about my pool. It was about something far larger, something truly vital. Unknown to Victoria, my pool was designed to be the centerpiece of a groundbreaking new initiative, a free, weekend hydrotherapy program for children with severe mobility limitations. many of whom were my own patients and could not afford private specialized care. The unique shallow-depth design and integrated ramp access were specifically tailored for this purpose. The program, Aquawings, was set to launch in 3 months, supported by a major children's charity and local hospital funding. Victoria's act of sabotage didn't just destroy my property, it jeopardized a vital therapeutic lifeline for dozens of vulnerable children, delaying critical treatment and potentially costing the program its funding. This isn't just petty spite, it was an act of profound callousness with devastating public health implications. A new, audacious idea, born from cold fury and a spark of defiant mischief, began to form. Victoria wanted classical? She wanted to control aesthetics? Fine. I would give her a show. I spent the next several weeks meticulously planning, not just a pool, but a statement. I consulted with a specialist in commercial recreational design, focusing on structures that, while technically HOA compliant under vague definitions of recreational facilities, would be outrageously over the top. The sprinklers would still be there, but they'd be part of something much, much bigger. Armed with the undeniable video evidence of Victoria's goons, easily identifiable from her favored landscape crew, one of whom was her nephew, destroying my site and my newly approved and technically HOA-compliant plans, I waited for the next HOA meeting. Victoria, radiating her usual imperious calm, was midway through a self-congratulatory speech about the successful enforcement of aesthetic standards. And I trust all residents are now enjoying the elevated visual harmony of the Grandview Estates, she purred, her eyes sweeping the room, stopping briefly on me with a smug, knowing smirk. Actually, Mrs. Sterling, I said, my voice cutting through her monologue, calm but firm, some of us are not. I held up my tablet, projecting the crystal-clear security footage onto the large screen behind her. The video showed her nephew and his crew meticulously destroying my excavation site, with Victoria herself clearly visible in the background, directing them via phone. The timestamp was undeniable. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Victoria, initially frozen in disbelief, quickly snapped into her default mode of aggressive denial. That's outrageous. A fabrication. That's not what happened. Your site was deemed structurally unsound. We were merely performing a necessary safety remediation. You're trying to slander me, Mr. Hayes, she shrieked, her face turning crimson. She started to storm towards the projection as if she could erase the digital evidence with sheer force of will. Actually, Mrs. Sterling, that's precisely what happened. And thanks to your aesthetic correction, I also have something new to show you. The calm, authoritative voice belonged to Dr. Lena Hansen, a highly respected representative from the Children's Hope Foundation, the charity funding Aquawings. She stepped out from the back of the room, accompanied by a police detective. I had contacted Dr. Hansen immediately after the sabotage, and she, understanding the gravity of the situation, had contacted law enforcement. This act of vandalism, Mrs. Sterling, directly delayed and threatened the funding for a crucial hydrotherapy program for vulnerable children. We have the permits, the medical recommendations, and now, thanks to Mr. Hayes, the video evidence of your direct interference. Eleanor Vance, a tenacious investigative reporter from the city's largest newspaper who had been tipped off by Dr. Hansen's office about potential charity project interference, emerged from her car, camera rolling. The pressure on Victoria intensified. Dr. Hansen, unflappable, continued, furthermore, our investigation has uncovered that your proposed classical pool designs for this community were consistently rejected by city planning commissions in your previous career as an architect, leading to your career shift. It appears your aesthetic standards are a deeply personal rather than communal fixation, one you are willing to enforce through illegal means to compensate for past professional failures. This was the second, deeper twist, revealing Victoria's past professional struggles and how her deep-seated insecurities fueled her obsessive need for control and perfect aesthetics in the HOA. Victoria's bravado completely evaporated. Her face, a mask of pure terror, crumpled. Her eyes darted wildly, seeking an escape that wasn't there. The mention of her past failures, the charity, the police, and a reporter seemed to hit her like a physical blow. She stammered, denying everything, her voice a reedy whisper of her former imperiousness. No, I didn't know the children, it's a misunderstanding, she wailed. But her words held no conviction. She looked utterly terrified, her perfect facade cracking and crumbling before our eyes. The detective stepped closer. A misunderstanding, Mrs. Sterling? We also have multiple reports from former HOA board members. detailing your systematic misuse of HOA funds to pay for unauthorized remediation projects that served no purpose other than to enforce your personal aesthetic preferences, and the testimony of your nephew, who admitted to the sabotage under your direct orders. He gestured to the police officers who now moved to flank Victoria. The fallout was swift and brutal. Victoria Sterling was arrested on the spot, her humiliated figure a stark contrast to her usual imperious demeanor. The news of her arrest, the emotional testimony from the charity, and the exposé of her past professional failures exploded in national media, painting her as a cautionary tale of unchecked, petty tyranny and personal vindictiveness. The Grandview Estates HOA facing immense public outrage, potential class action lawsuits from residents she had financially burdened with unnecessary upgrades, and a full-blown financial audit by city officials, immediately removed her from her presidency and publicly disavowed all her actions. Her carefully cultivated social circle crumbled, her allies vanished, and her name became synonymous with cruelty and hypocrisy. She lost everything she had so desperately sought to control and impress. Her ambition and hubris repaid in full by public humiliation, legal ruin, and a profoundly painful fall from grace. As for me, the destroyed lap pool was a painful memory. But in its place, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose and a dash of defiant humor, rose something spectacular. My property was now home to Aquahaven, a sprawling, multi-tiered water park complete with 3 twisting slides, a lazy river that meandered through meticulously crafted rock formations, a splash pad shaped like a giant lily pad, and, at its heart, a specially designed, accessible hydrotherapy pool for the AquaWings program. It was built using a series of clever interpretations of the HOA's bylaws regarding recreational facilities, which, unlike pools, had surprisingly few aesthetic restrictions. It was vibrant, boisterous, and a beacon of joy visible from Victoria's own, now somber, classical backyard. Aquahaven quickly became a beloved community resource, a place where laughter echoed and children thrived. My victory was sweet, but also reflective. It highlighted the profound difference between true community and enforced conformity. It leaves us to ponder. When does the pursuit of perceived perfection become a destructive obsession? How far should individuals go to protect their private space and contribute to the public good from the unchecked aggression of others? And what is our collective responsibility to challenge those who wield power for personal gain, even when it means turning a simple pool into a giant water park?